My fusion system, fusing 1,000 chickens at the start. Chapter 31, Fusion, Top Grade Arcana Mithril. We'll listen to you, Watson. Reynolds nodded to Watson, glanced at Carter, and walked straight out. After all, it was not his subordinates who had committed the crime. His anger just now was just for show. Carter, who was on the receiving end of the look, secretly cursed him for gloating. He was a bit embarrassed, as he had wanted to take the opportunity to entice Watson, but did not expect his subordinates to commit such a big mistake. Fortunately, the young genius was not angry. Outside the courtyard stood 6 burly men dressed as guards. One of them was a young man in his early 20s. He was lying on the ground, rubbing his ankles with a pale face. His ankles had turned black and blue. Beside him was a round stone and 2 large pieces of broken white jade stone slabs. The so-called white jade stone slabs were not made of jade, but a rare mineral called white jade. This mineral naturally produced a kind of fragrance which could calm the mind of those who smelled it, in addition to having the effect of promoting cultivation. A house made of white jade could be warm in winter and cool in summer. It was a material loved by many great nobles. At this moment, Carter looked at the shattered and translucent pieces on the ground. His vision went black, and his body swayed, almost falling down. Before he came out, he still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. If the white jade stone tablet was not severely broken and only broke into 2 or 3 pieces, he could still barely use it, but that glimmer of hope had since disappeared without a trace. "Idiots, are you all pigs?" Carter pointed at his subordinates and could not help but roar, "Kneel down and apologize to Baron Edward. Don't even think about taking this month's pay. Not only this month, you won't get the next month's pay either." A group of people, especially the guards who fell to the ground, looked aggrieved. They were already very tired from moving such a large slab. Who would have thought that there would be round stones on the ground? They did not do it on purpose, but with mistakes like that, the fine of a month's wages was light punishment, as opposed to if Carter expelled them from the caravan. "Baron Edward, we were wrong. Please forgive us. We are really sorry. We were careless." A few guards turned their heads and carefully lowered their heads to Edward. "Forget it. You did not do it on purpose." Edward waved his hand and walked to the guard who had sprained his ankle. He picked up the round stone under his feet and looked at it. He found that it was very smooth. There was not a single corner on it, and it did not seem to be formed naturally. Turning his head, Edward glanced at Watson. Back in the courtyard, he saw a few pieces of broken stone on the ground. Some of the edges and corners had been smoothed out, just like that stone. Feeling his father's gaze, Watson whistled and turned his small head to the side. Just now, in order to test whether the weapon condensed by his light attribute combat aura was sharp enough, he not only hacked at the big stone in the courtyard, but also slashed at the broken stones and either pierced or grinned them. Perhaps a few pieces had accidentally flown out in the process of cutting. Having roughly guessed the cause of the incident, Edward found that Carter was still reprimanding his subordinates and sighed, "Carter, it has been many years since we last met, and your temper is still as hot-tempered as ever. All right, they've been punished, so let's not make things difficult for these people anymore. Unfortunately, we can only trouble you to make another trip to Monty Town." He did not want to make things difficult for Carter, but he also felt that it was unfortunate. Originally, they could repair the house again within the next 2 days with those white jade slabs, but aside from having to wait a period of time, they also had to spend more money there. Just thinking about it made him feel annoyed. "You guys, Baron Edward has already spoken. Didn't you hear him? Count yourself lucky this time. The next time something similar happens, I will expel all of you from the lucky business group. Hurry up and tidy up this place, then get lost." Carter waved his hand impatiently. A few guards quickly acknowledged him. They supported the injured one and were about to turn around and leave. At this moment, "Wait!" Watson walked out. Uncle Carter, I think it's just a few stones. It's a bit too much to punish them for 2 months' salary. Too much? Watson, you only say that because you don't know the value of these white jade stone slabs. White jade can only be found in large mines. It was very troublesome to excavate them back and forth. Monty Town is the only one stocking this within a radius of a few hundred kilometers. It would take 2 days to go back and forth from here to Monty Town. That's a total of 4 days. In addition, a white jade slab is worth 10 gold pieces. There's also the cost of transporting it again, and the money to hire someone to protect it. The total would reach at least 100 gold coins. Carter had a bitter expression on his face. He counted on his fingers, thinking to himself that he could not squander his money like that no matter how rich he was. Watson was a child whose considerations were too simple. Then if I can repair these white jade slabs, will you be able to let these people go? Watson asked. Watson, if the white jade slabs could be easily repaired, then Carter wouldn't be so angry. Reynolds could not help but interject. How were the broken stone slabs supposed to be repaired, sticking them bit by bit? The amount of manpower and resources needed to do that was even more than buying a new stone slab. The guards looked at each other, then looked at Watson in surprise. However, compared to the two merchants, their eyes were filled with gratitude. They had not expected the young master of that family to speak up for them. What a good person! Of course, if they knew that the stone that had caused them to fall was Watson's doing, they would not have thought so. It's all right, Uncle Reynolds. I have a way. Watson faced Reynolds, who didn't believe him, and smiled shyly. It's all right, Reynolds. Let him try. Edward said, stroking his chin. Compared to his two merchant friends, he knew Watson better. With all those magical abilities Watson had, perhaps he really did have a way if he said it so confidently. All right then. Reynolds sighed. Beside him, Carter did not have any expectations either. System, fuse it for me. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Watson walked to the white jade fragments on the ground, pointed at the largest fragment that was no larger than a fist, and activated the system's ability. A ray of light flashed, and all the crushed stones on the ground collided in front of him. Some of them were not white jade, but ordinary stones. Congratulations, Master! You have successfully fused a silver-tier ore, Arcana Mithril. Silver-tier Arcana Mithril. Effect, able to condense the elements of heaven and earth. When carried around, it can increase a cultivator's cultivation speed by 50%. It is very durable and can resist the attack of a silver-tier powerhouse. Additional effect, resizing, has good ductility, its volume can change by 10 times. Not bad. Watson looked at the shining metal plate that was 1 meter in radius and clapped his hands in satisfaction. He turned his head and saw a few guards looking at him as if he was a monster. They were mumbling things like, "What kind of magic is this? And the stone plate that we originally moved was 5 times bigger than this. This small piece is not enough to build a house. Oh no, I almost forgot that this thing will become smaller after fusion. I'll fuse it again." Watson slapped his forehead and was about to continue the fusion. There were many stones everywhere. After fusing a large number of ordinary stones together, he believed that they were able to become good materials too. However, before he could do anything, Carter had already grabbed him tightly, with his eyes emitting a green light. "Watson, wait a minute. If I'm not mistaken, this piece that you fused with magic should be the legendary Arcana Mithril. Let's discuss. Can you sell me a small piece later?" Chapter 32, Turning Stone into Gold. It's Arcana Mithril. Edward gasped. Watson had mastered a magic that could fuse things together and change their quality. It was not a secret at their home, but he just did not expect Watson's magic to be so powerful. Although the name White Jade had a good reputation, it was actually an iron-tier mineral. Its texture was also very brittle, and it could not be compared to Arcana Mithril. Arcana Mithril was the metal that some powerful mages used to make magic staffs. It had a natural conductivity to magic elements, and the magic staffs made with it were several times more powerful than those of the same level. It could also speed up cultivation, making for an irresistible temptation. Because of its special functions and the fact that it was difficult to extract, the mithril mines in the kingdom had been completely exploited many years ago. A few large mines were now controlled by the royal family, and outsiders could not touch them. That alone made it clear how precious that metal was. If palm-sized Arcana Mithril could be sold for 10 gold pieces, one could imagine the price of a piece the size of a door. It could be sold for hundreds of thousands of gold, and if a finished weapon was made, the price could be dozens of times higher. It was no surprise that Carter's eyes were almost glued to it and he refused to move. If Uncle Carter likes it, it's okay to give this metal to you. Watson scratched his head. Using the system, he could clearly see the effect of this piece of Arcana Mithril. His training speed was increased by 50%. It sounded good, but as long as he fused it, he could become stronger. He did not need to train at all. In his eyes, it was just a piece of iron with exceptional durability. Give it to me. Carter sucked in a breath of cold air. He almost rolled his eyes and fell to the ground. He said, "Reynolds, pinch me to see if I'm dreaming." Slap. A hard slap landed on Carter's face, making him spin a couple of times. Reynolds stared at the whole piece of Arcana Mithril with jealousy. What kind of good deed did Carter do? How could he be so lucky? That was a whole piece of Arcana Mithril. It was worth several thousand gold coins, which was equivalent to half of his savings. Being hit by Reynolds, Carter was not angry. Instead, he held the heavy Arcana Mithril in his hands and rubbed his chubby face on it. "The Arcana Mithril is mine, hee. The more Reynolds looked at it, the angrier he got. He wanted to kick Carter's butt again. At this time, Watson looked at him. "Uncle Reynolds, if you want this Arcana Mithril, I can make one for you. But to fuse the Arcana Mithril, you need a white jade slab that was as big as before. Also, I have a condition." Hearing this, Reynolds' heart was burning with passion. He hurriedly asked, "What condition?" "Don't be so hard on those guards for what happened. Don't worry. Leave this matter to me." Reynolds waved his hand at the few guards who were standing to the side. "Quickly go. Get someone to bring over another white jade slab. This time, be careful. If you do a good job, you won't have to pay that 2 months fine. Even if Carter still wants to punish you, I will pay double the price to help you make up for it." "Yes, my lord." The guards left happily. They didn't know what Arcana Mithril was, but seeing the two merchants so excited, it was obviously a good thing. Plus, their wages did not have to be deducted, so they were even more grateful to Watson. This young master was not only kind-hearted but also capable. He would definitely have a bright future. After arranging all that, Reynolds thought of something and looked at Edward with some embarrassment. "Edward, I'm sorry. These white jade slabs were meant for you to build a house. It's all my fault." "It doesn't matter. 2 white jade slabs have already been broken. We can't expand them anyway. We might as well take this opportunity to fuse the white jade slabs into Arcana Mithril. I remember buying 16 white jade slabs from you this time. I'll give you 2 of them as gifts. As for the remaining 14, if they can be fused into Arcana Mithril, please help me sell them in the Monty town." Edward put his hand on Reynolds' shoulder. He was indeed rich, but he was not a fool. He had just saved up a few thousand gold coins at home. Each of that mithril was worth several thousand gold coins. If he sold them all, he would become a millionaire. As long as Watson's magic did not lose its ability and could be done on repeat, it would not matter even if he melted the gold coins and used them instead of white jade to build a house. "The stone tablet is here, please make way. This is the Arcana Mithril. I heard that bringing a small piece with you can double the cultivation speed of a cultivator. If it is built into a house, the cultivation speed can be increased even more. It can even be used as a mode of cultivation when you lie down and sleep. More than 10 guards surrounded the 16 pieces of silver in front of the courtyard gate. They sized up the 1-meter-wide metal blocks and secretly swallowed their saliva. With the precedent of getting fired for stealing eggs, none of them dared to show their greed. Besides, Watson had helped them out of kindness earlier, so they respected the young master more than the two big businessmen. Whoever dared to steal these 2 pieces of ore plates would have to face the wrath. Edward, let's talk about it. Can you give me a few more pieces of arcane mithril? Carter was beside Edward, trying to persuade him. I'll give you 6 pieces at most. The remaining 10 pieces will be sold in our name. Edward glanced at him. He usually made babies with Catherine at that time, so he was quite unhappy to be harassed by 2 fat guys at that moment. Okay. I don't want too much. Give me 4 pieces and give Reynolds 2 pieces. Carter laughed so hard that he couldn't close his mouth. Reynolds' angry voice came from the side, why would you want 4 pieces? Your lucky business group doesn't have as much money as Traveling Wing Business Group. You don't seem at all afraid of overeating with those 4 pieces. Just give us the $4. Everyone knew that Arcana mithril was a highly profitable metal. As long as they went back and refined it into something, they could earn back 10 times their money. Such a good bargain could not possibly be given to Carter for free. I said 4. First come, first served, understand? Hehe, it's useless to tell me this. My bottom line is 3 pieces per person. I'm asking you if you agree. Will you fight with me if I don't agree? Those are your words. The 2 merchants grabbed each other's collars, blowing their beards and glaring at each other. They were about to fight, but the guards beside them were not surprised. If they had the chance to get their hands on the Arcana mithril, the guards would certainly be more excited than the merchant. Okay. We can't expand the house these days anyway. If you want to fight, do it somewhere else. I'll go back and rest. Edward waved his hand and was about to walk into the courtyard. Father, wait a minute. At this moment, Watson pulled his sleeve. Edward turned his head and saw Watson's eyes twinkling. He said hesitantly, Father, what if I say that I have a way to expand the house? What? You have a way? Edward's face changed. Watson had a way when the white jade broke and had since come up with another way to expand the house. Could Watson at least save his father some dignity after the man could not even think of anything? Could Watson's way be by fusing a large number of white jade slabs into Arcana mithril, and then using the Arcana mithril to build the house? Aside from the fact that the family could not be that extravagant, there were not that many white jade slabs to begin with. I do have a crude idea. Watson nodded and pointed at the big stones in the yard not far away from him, which had been used to test his combat aura earlier. He then started the fusion. With a whoosh, the size of the big stones shrunk by 10 times, and when they were combined, they turned into crystal clear ores that were similar to white jade stones. Dad, look, you can use ordinary stones to fuse similar ores, and you can have as many as you want. As long as your 2 uncles' men go around and collect more stones, we can start work very soon. Edward's mouth twitched, but he did not say anything. It was not that he had not thought of such a simple reason, but he did not dare to think about it. Watson could use white jade because white jade was an iron tier treasure. It was far too exaggerated for Watson to turn ordinary stones into treasures. Even the legendary great philosopher of that kingdom, who had spent his entire life researching ways to turn stone into gold, was only average at best. Carter and Reynolds, who were fighting on the side, stopped fighting at this moment. They used their hands to smooth the creases on each other's clothes. According to Watson, if there was an inexhaustible supply of stones, there would be an endless supply of white jade stone slabs, and Arcana mithril could also be produced continuously. Was there a need to hurry if they had plenty of opportunities to do such business in the future? Chapter 33, Fusing 10 Houses into One Mansion. Do you really think that there are people in this world who are born with everything? 3 miles away from Watson's house, a guard was sweating profusely. He was leaning against a tree to cool himself off and avoid the scorching sun in the sky. There were 3 similar guards sitting beside him. 2 of them had even taken off their upper body clothes and wrapped them around their waists, revealing their strong muscles. In front of them, more than 20 long carriages were parked quietly. They were filled with items, not treasures or medicinal herbs, but rocks. Some farmers who passed by had strange expressions on their faces when they saw the sheer amount of tattered items in the carriages. They did not even think to look twice. It was precisely because the items were not valuable that the guards were able to relax and rest. At this moment, another guard heard their compatriots' questions and said, "I don't know if there are people in this world who are born with knowledge. I only know people should never be compared with one another. Some people are born rich, some are poor, and their talents are the same. If someone who is blessed by the heavens works hard for a year, he will be able to do something that we will never be able to do in our lifetime. That's right. Even if I work hard for my entire life, I will still not be able to compare to young Master Watson." The guard who spoke first sighed. He was the youth who had sprained his ankle in the merchant group 2 days ago. His name was Gordo. He was a bronze-tier warrior at the tender age of 20 and was considered talented amongst the many guards of the merchant group. Gordo's dream was to one day successfully advance to silver-tier and be respected by others. He was initially escorting the merchant group at that time, and did not pay much attention when he heard that the Gary family had produced a young silver-tier warrior. Many farmers were uncultured in that poor and remote place at the border. They might even mistake a bronze-tier warrior for a silver-tier warrior. The result was undoubtedly a great shock to him. Regardless of whether Watson really was a silver-tier warrior, the mere fact that he had mastered the rare light attribute combat aura made Gordo extremely envious. There was no need to mention what had happened after that. He had been reprimanded by the boss for spraining his ankle, and Watson had protected him. The scene of turning waste into treasure, where those materials were fused together to improve their quality, was still lingered in his mind. Gordo's idol had originally been the kingdom's only diamond-tier sword saint, but it had since changed to Watson. He had been pestering Watson for the past 2 days, hoping that Watson would become his master and teach him how to learn light attribute combat aura. Although Watson was a child, he was still a silver-tier warrior, and strength represented status in that world. Unfortunately, Watson had not agreed to it, so he could only settle for the next best thing by helping gather the stones and attempt to make sure that Watson acknowledged him. This was already the 3rd trip on the 3rd day. The stones he dragged out were at least a few thousand kilograms. Although there were no large mountains nearby, there were more than 10 small mounds. If all of them were mined, there would be at least 100,000 kilograms of stones. Let's go. If we go back late, the boss might get angry again. Moreover, looking at the time, young Master Watson will be able to build the house today. If we go late, we won't be able to see it. After resting enough, everyone got up and returned to the surroundings of the carriage. Gordo curled his lips and was the last to stand up. The term young master was usually used by servants to address their master, and he was the one who called Watson first. The others only learned it after hearing him call that way. Carter and Reynolds were both jealous and helpless with the way the guards treated Watson as their master. Even the 2 of them wanted to curry favor with Watson, not to mention their subordinates. At this moment, they were standing in the courtyard. Each of them stood behind Watson and was holding a fan to fan him. "Young master, this is the first time I've seen such a strange method of building a house. What exactly are you going to do?" In the courtyard in front of them, there were 7 additional houses made of stone bricks and tiles, other than the original 3-story building of the Watson family. Because the courtyard had been demolished 2 days ago, the 8 individual houses were still able to fit in. The reason why so many houses were built in 2 days was not only because the stone materials that Watson had fused with the stones were strong and neat to handle, but also because the guards built them randomly instead of building a foundation. Carter did not quite understand why so many weak and independent houses had to be built. If they were to be used for living, Watson was not old enough to leave his parents' house. Carter did not think that they were to be prepared for merchants who had come from afar either, since there was no point building houses for people who did not stay there for long. Don't worry, you'll know what I'm going to do soon. Once Gordo and the others come back and several thousand kilograms of stones are fused, 2 more houses' walls can be produced. As for the roof, just continue to build it with the courtyard fence that has been demolished. We can finally start once 10 houses are assembled. Watson waved his hand, his expression calm. He had been using ordinary stone as fusion materials for the past few days. Because he was afraid that the fused items would be too good, and that it would cause the 2 merchants to be unable to move, he had fused a silver jade that was a little stronger than white jade. Silver jade was between iron and bronze tier ores. The surface of the stone seemed to be made of gold and had a lustrous texture, which sparkled when placed in the sunlight. These days, Watson's brothers and sisters were very curious about the way the family expanded the house. The eldest brother and Scarlett helped out frequently, which was very normal. However, the 6th sibling Margaret and bedridden 5th sibling Peter would sometimes look down through the window. They had heard that their father, Edward, had made a fortune on chicken eggs and wanted to splurge, which was understandable, but why was it their youngest sibling Watson who was in charge of supervising them? In the evening, Gordo and the others returned with more than 20 carts of large stones. When they returned, someone handed them water bottles. Watson walked directly to the 20 carts and started the system fusion. Pieces of silver jade slabs that were a few meters in circumference were forged and carried down by the guards. Around the original 8 houses, 2 more houses were spliced together. These 2 houses were solid silver jade slabs on the outside and supported by wooden strips on the inside. The windows and stairs were omitted, and there was no furniture. From the outside, these houses were more gorgeous than Watson's original small wooden house. However, they did not have a foundation. It was not a big deal if they were hit by a storm, but if they were hit by an earthquake, the buildings would definitely collapse very quickly. Young master, now that we have gathered 10 houses, you should at least tell us what you want to do, right? Reynolds was trying to outdo Carter, and the speed at which he waved the fan for Watson began increasing. Big businessmen like them were usually served by others. When did they ever serve anyone else? Because he had been waving the fan for an entire afternoon, Reynolds' hands were almost numb. He was still enduring, because Carter was still by his side. At that point, he no longer wanted to best Carter for a few stone slabs. What he wanted was Watson's favor and the greater benefits that came with it. All right, we can begin. Watson nodded and extended his right hand towards the 10 houses. The surrounding guards drank water as they wiped the sweat off their faces. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. They also wanted to know what this mysterious young master was going to do. System, fuse. Facing the 10 houses, Watson spat out 2 words and closed his eyes. This was the first time he had fused with such a huge object like a house. He did not know what effect it would have. Bang! As the sound faded, the 10 houses suddenly shook and turned into a huge light that collided with each other. The intersection point happened to be the wooden house that Watson had originally lived in. A dazzling huge ball of light appeared, and everyone closed their eyes to avoid it. After the light dissipated and everyone reopened their eyes, everyone was dumbfounded. The original 10 houses had already disappeared in front of them. What appeared before everyone was a building, and no one knew whether that building should be called a mansion or a castle. It covered an area of several kilometers and had a total of 4 floors. One could see the spacious corridors and rooms inside it through the floor-to-ceiling windows. A conservative estimate of the number of rooms would be around 100. Chapter 34, Messengers from the Imperial City. This is too shocking. Even Monty Town's mayor doesn't have this big a house. A guard from Lucky Business Group who had seen the mayor's house was practically staring at the mansion in front of him. Not only can he fuse ores, he can even fuse houses too. Is there anything in this world that the young master can't do? Another guard lamented. He finally understood why Watson wanted to build 10 houses. It turned out that they were used as materials for fusion. The houses that they had built previously looked quite impressive on the outside, but the foundation was actually not very solid. However, they did not doubt the sturdiness of the mansion in front of them. The black walls that flickered with a faint luster gave people a majestic feeling. There were a few vines wrapped around them, which diluted the heavy feeling and brought a hint of vitality. Through the bright windows, one could also see the murals hanging on the walls, other than the bedrooms. There were also some exquisite porcelain pieces placed on the ground. The guard dared to guarantee that the houses that were originally built by everyone did not even have glass, let alone murals and porcelain pieces. When he thought of this, he felt very regretful. Why did he not have the talent for magic when he was born? Could he have done such an amazing thing if he was a mage instead of a warrior? At this moment, the guards were not only amazed at the magic of Watson's magic, they were also amazed at his taste. After all, anyone could do a fusion of houses, but to fuse it into a low-key, elegant, spacious, and luxurious residence was not something that an ordinary person could do. The pear tree door covered with veins, and the 2 doorknobs carved into the shape of a lion in front of the door, were the epitome of detail. Silver-tier Black Moon Castle. Effect, forged from bronze-tier black jade ore. Cultivation speed increased by 30% if cultivated inside the home. At the same time, you can sleep faster and feel more at ease. Special effect, domain, if any creature enters the castle with hostility, they will be suppressed. The strength of professionals below silver tier will be reduced by 50%. This isn't only a place to live, it's also a super large-scale magic tool. Watson looked at the castle that was 1 floor higher than before. There was a conical dome on both sides of the castle, and he sighed in his heart. The castle was not unfamiliar to the people of the Middle Ages, but that was only for the higher ups. Only the royal family and the great nobles could afford to live in a castle. The Miles Manor that Watson had seen before was just a group of bungalows. All right, the castle is finished. Next, it's time to build the chicken coops. Everyone, follow me. If it's fast, it'll be completed in another week. I'll treat everyone to live in the castle for the next few days and have the best bread and meat to eat. Watson looked at the manor a few times, turned around, and waved his small hand. The castle was not enough. According to his ideals, his family should adopt the same layout as the Miles Manor. The family's chicken farm should be surrounded by walls, and it would be best if they also surrounded 10 acres of farmland. That way, it would be difficult for anyone to break in. Unfortunately, at least 10 kilometers of a wall was needed in order to accomplish that. It amounted to a large number of stones, and they still needed those guards to carry them. Yes, young master. All the guards smiled, exposed their arms, and walked out in a mighty manner. They were so obedient not only because they would be able to enjoy good food and drink, but also because they wanted to see what Watson would do next. Time flew by, and soon, a week had passed. There were many things to do these few days. The merchants under Carter and Reynolds would each transport rocks during the morning, noon, and evening. They would transport 3 times a day, emptying the rocks in the nearby hills. If that was not enough, they would go to the nearby farms and ask for it, as plenty of farms had hundreds or thousands of large rocks. If it really did not work, these guards would even take out a few copper coins. After a while, the nearby farms all learned of the news that the Watson family was expanding, and some skeptical people even secretly went to take a look. It just so happened that a week had passed and the bright moon hung in the sky. 2 figures, one tall and one short, came from the middle of the kingdom and appeared on a hill 1 kilometer away from the Watson family. There were many hills at the border, so if the farmland here was more than 100 acres, it would mostly be terraced fields. Even the misty forest grew at the foot of a mountain range. The mountain range where Misty Forest was located was called Dragonspine Snow Mountain. It got its name because the snow did not melt all year round, and it was shaped like a long dragon lying on its stomach. The snow mountain was 10,000 meters tall, and there were countless dangerous magical beasts on it. After crossing it, one would arrive at an extremely cold place, that was the territory of the Winter Kingdom. And to the east of Watson's house, more than 100 miles away was the Border Count's territory, who was in charge of the border. There were 100,000 barren mountains outside, and beyond the 100,000 barren mountains was the Thorn Empire. The Holy Dragon Kingdom was located in the center of the continent, surrounded by a country on each side. The Holy Dragon Kingdom, which occupied the most fertile land in the center, was always somewhat estranged from other countries. The friction with the Thorn Empire had been greater in the past 2 years, and had it not been for the natural dangers surrounding the Holy Dragon Kingdom, the kingdom would have been destroyed long ago. Sigh, in less than half a year, it will be winter in March. The continuous snowstorms in the past few months will affect the harvest. There are also powerful magical beasts running out of the dense fog forest to steal things and wreak havoc. In addition, the soldiers of the Empire are eyeing us from the east. Fortunately, the Count at the border is known as His Majesty's Chief Mage. Although his rank is not high, he is deeply trusted by His Majesty. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to clean up this mess. The person who spoke was a green-robed young man with pointed boots, 2 small wings, and a feathered helmet. Beside him stood a young woman. The white feathers on the helmet fluttered in the wind. That was the symbol of a messenger. Stop complaining. This time, the Imperial city received intelligence that the Empire's soldiers are getting restless. They asked us to come and inform the border count to increase our vigilance. At the same time, they also asked us to search for some local intelligence and report back. The corners of the young woman's mouth curled up, she revealed a bright smile. So, have you found any interesting news in the vicinity recently? As messengers, their job was to pass on information, go to certain places to gather materials, and report on the situation there, such as whether the taxes were reasonable, whether the border guards were loyal, or whether there were hidden geniuses. All sorts of things were reported, as it was conducive to the control of the country by the higher UPS. If we want to talk about interesting stuff, we did find too. There was a Miles Manor near here. A few days ago, the owner of the manor was killed, but no one in the manor went to the law enforcers. Instead, they all said that it was good that he died, the male messenger said. The female messenger seemed indifferent and replied calmly, since no one cares about them after they died, they must have done too many bad things in their lives. Let me ask you, does this Miles have any nobility title? No, he's just an ordinary landlord. He doesn't even have a wife. Then it's fine. A few people like him die every year. Even if we do manage them, they're not under our control. Is there anything else? There is indeed one more thing. Should I say it's strange, or should I say that it's difficult to ascertain the truth? In short, it's very troublesome. The male messenger looked around and carefully lowered his voice. I heard from the farmers nearby that a down-and-out baron named Edward has recently earned a lot of money and is using this money to expand his house. It's said that the castle he built is even more magnificent than the houses of the great nobles. It's comparable to the royal palace. Because the overall structure of the mansion is crescent-shaped, it looks like a black crescent moon from the mountain during the day. That's why people call it the Black Moon Castle. What do you mean it's comparable to the royal palace? It's just the delusion of a country bumpkin who hasn't seen the world. Don't tell me you're the same as a country bumpkin who hasn't seen the world? Forget it, stop talking. It looks like there's nothing interesting around here. Let's hurry up and send a letter to Count at the border. Let's hurry back. As she spoke, the female messenger began to stride down the hill when she stopped halfway. What's wrong? Seeing the female messenger's wide-open mouth, the male messenger could not help but ask. Raising her hand, the female messenger pointed not far ahead, her fingers trembling non-stop. It's the royal palace. In the distance, there was a tall building that stretched far and wide. It was surrounded by a wall that was 10 kilometers long and more than 2 meters tall. There were also short spears stuck on top of it. The black wall reflected the bright moonlight, and the faint roar of a giant beast could be heard, leaving them utterly shocked. The male messenger looked over and felt that this castle was too gorgeous. It was comparable to 10 manors combined. Although it was not as grand as the royal palace, it was still shocking to see such a huge thing appear in this place. Of course, he was more dissatisfied than surprised. And you just said that I was ignorant. Look, this Black Moon Castle really does exist, doesn't it? Chapter 35, Watson's Ambition. A banquet was being held in Black Moon Castle. There were more than 30 people sitting in the huge hall. Edward and Catherine sat at the head of the table. Next to them were Watson and the two big businessmen. Behind them were their elder brothers and sisters, as well as the guards of the 2 caravans and the 6 farmers from Miles Manor. During that time, wine glasses were exchanged, and it was very lively. Young Master Watson, everything is done. We will set off tomorrow. Sigh, if it was possible, I'd really like to stay here for a longer period of time. Carter raised his wine glass and gave Watson a toast while lamenting. Yes, this is the first time I'm staying in such a large castle. There are hundreds of rooms, and I sleep in one every day. It'll be different for every day of the year. Reynolds looked around and said. One could live comfortably in Black Moon Castle as well as eat good meat and bread every day. The group of guards were so happy that they did not even think about going home. They treated that place as heaven. If not for the fact that the business group still had a lot of things to deal with in Monty Town, Reynolds would have wanted to stay here for a few years and enjoy the treatment of a great noble. Uncles, don't worry. This is your second home. You can stay here as long as you want. Watson smiled. Using fruit juice instead of wine, he accompanied the 2 merchants to have a drink. The 2 merchants hurriedly thanked him and said, "We'll come again when we have the chance." They praised Watson for being sensible. Beside them, Watson's 3rd and 4th siblings looked at each other as if they had made an important decision, then said in unison, "When you 2 merchants leave, can you bring us along?" They had witnessed the development of their family over the past few days. Edward was busy expanding his house, while his elder brother was in charge of teaching Watson. Other than his 5th and 6th siblings, who did not go downstairs, their 7th sibling, Scarlet, would occasionally follow the guards out to hunt. Each person had something to do except for Zeke and Zenoa. It had already been their duty to sell the eggs of the pentacolor fragrant chicken. Now that they had a merchant to do it for them, they were bored out of their minds. Because they had eaten quite a few eggs and had consumed the 7 treasures glazed ginseng, their strength had increased to 2,000 catties. During the past 2 days when they had nothing to do, they followed Vincent and learned how to train their combat aura, but it did not take long for them to give up. It was not that they did not have talent, but they were just not interested to train. Their main interest was doing business. Since the 2 merchants were here, they decided to follow the 2 merchants to Monty Town to learn some advanced business methods. With that, they would be able to better manage their family businesses in the future. You guys want to go to Monty Town? You're more than welcome. With the help of these 2 little brothers, our traveling wind business group will definitely develop better. Reynolds' eyes lit up when he heard that. He had been fretting over how to build a good relationship with Watson and win against Carter when the opportunity presented itself right there. Zeke and Zenoa were Watson's older brothers. As long as he became friends with these 2, he wouldn't have to worry about Watson not taking care of him a little more. How shameless can you be, Reynolds? Who said that these 2 little brothers must join your traveling wind business group? It's obviously better to join our lucky business group. Young Masters Zeke and Zenoa, you are free to choose. Who do you want to follow? Carter put down his wine glass heavily and pursed his lips in dissatisfaction. It was normal for Reynolds to take this opportunity to build a good relationship with Watson. However, did he have to be so brazen as to act as though Carter did not exist? Zeke and Zenoa looked at each other, revealing a sly smile. I want to go to the Lucky Business Group, Traveling Wind Business Group. Zeke had chosen the Lucky Business Group, while Zenoa had chosen the Traveling Wind Business Group. The two brothers had telepathy, and they always synced with each other regardless of what they did. On that occasion, there was a rare disagreement. Watson watched from the side and nodded to himself. These two brothers were really smart. If they chose the same group, the other merchant would definitely be unhappy. It would be better for each of them to choose one. This way, they would be able to help the two merchants fight. After all, on the surface, the merchants' groups were the ones in charge of teaching them. If, after a year, Zeke or Zenoa were to be outclassed because they weren't skilled enough, it was the merchant that would lose their reputation. Good, good, good. Then Zeke will follow our Lucky Business Group. Don't worry, I'll definitely impart all my knowledge to you within a year at most, Carter hurriedly said. Little brother Zeke, don't worry. If you follow the Traveling Wind Business Group, I guarantee that you won't be inferior to your brother in terms of business-mindedness after a year. Reynolds also said the same thing. Those who could become great merchants were obviously intelligent people. After thinking for a moment, they understood what Zeke and Zenoa's intentions were. However, they did not really mind, as it would still be beneficial to them. Reynolds, speaking it all you're good at. The total assets of the Traveling Wind Business Group that you spent 10 years to build are not as much as my assets. You better not overestimate yourself. Carter, you're the one who's all big talk, isn't that right? We'll see what the result is like. Carter and Reynolds looked at each other. Their gazes collided in midair, creating an invisible spark. There was a faint sign that they were about to start a fight. Such scenes happened a few times a day, and Watson was tired of watching it. In order to let his ears rest for a while, he stood up and said, "Everyone, eat slowly. I drank too much fruit juice. I need to go to the toilet first." After he finished speaking, he left the hall. Behind him came the sound of two businessmen arguing with each other, accompanied by the sound of slapping the table. After leaving the mansion, Watson turned his head to look at the majestic castle that stood in the darkness. The corners of his mouth curled up. Third and fourth brothers are going out to study. During this period of time, I'll use the money I earn to expand the house once more. I also have to quickly recruit people. A few hundred bedrooms are not good to be left empty. Who would have thought a month ago that the family would develop to that extent? Even Watson did not expect it. He had one ambition, and that was to expand the scope of the castle. With the castle as the center, there was Miles Manor to the east, Boundary Stones to the west, and Misty Forest to the north. He would annex all the nearby farms and would build a town more prosperous than Monty Town. He did not tell his family about this idea. Otherwise, even his father, Edward, who was the most resilient, would be shocked to death when he heard it. In the past, Watson only wanted to feed his family and let them live a better life. That simple desire had since changed. He wanted his family to become the largest town at the border and never again be bullied by anyone. Outside the fence near the chicken farm, two messengers from Imperial City were lying on top of the fence, secretly looking inside. Am I seeing things? This family actually has pentacolor fragrant chickens. Through the short spears and barbed wire erected on the fence, the female messengers discovered that behind the fence was a breeding farm, which was divided into two by a high fence. On the left side of the fence, 5 pentacolor fragrant chickens were pacing about, and the stone-built chicken coop was filled with colorful eggs. It was like a treasure trove. On the other side of the fence, the breeding farm was empty, and no one could see what was being raised. Only the great nobles are qualified to raise pentacolor fragrant chickens. 5 chickens, could it be that some great noble came to the border to develop? Why haven't I heard about this? I must report this to the higher UPS. The female messenger's eyes were burning, and she reached out to wipe the wall, and this wall, it seems to be a bronze tier or black jade. How much does it cost to build a wall that is 10 miles long using bronze tier ores? Even the border count who is in charge of the border is not that wealthy. The male messenger's words came from behind. I heard that this place was originally the territory of a poor baron. Perhaps it isn't that a great noble migrated here, but that the baron made a fortune. Don't talk nonsense. How could a poor baron make a fortune? Even if he made a fortune, how could he build such a magnificent castle in such a short time? The female messenger had a look of disbelief on her face. She felt that someone had pulled her calf and asked, "Why? Do you think what I said is wrong?" There was no sound. The feeling of her calf being pulled became stronger and stronger. "What are you doing?" The female messenger turned her head angrily and found the male messenger lying on the wall. He had a pale face and was trembling as he pointed at the ground below. Under the wall, a little golden lion was pacing slowly. It was baring its teeth at the two of them, with its body emitting the terrifying aura of a gold-tier magical beast. Chapter 36, Recruiting Subordinates. 10 minutes later, Golden Flash strutted across the farm and wiped its drooling mouth with its claws. There were 2 sneaky people outside just now, peeping in. No one knew what they were up to. After it sensed their auras, it only took 2 steps out before the 2 people fled in panic. It would have to tell its master about this later. Perhaps its master would reward it with its favorite pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs. As the only gold-tier magical beast in the family with combat strength, its master had given it the responsibility of guarding the manor and it could not disappoint its master. After taking 2 steps, the Golden Flash came to a palace that was more than a meter tall. It was entirely made of black jade. That was the nest where it stayed. In front of the palace, 2 pentacolor fragrant chickens had just climbed over the fence next door. They bowed their heads respectfully to it, flapped their wings, and put down 2 colored eggs as tribute. 2 days ago, a human guard tried to steal the eggs, but was discovered by Golden Flash. The pentacolor fragrant chickens, who were initially hostile towards it, changed their minds about it. Other than Emperor Cluck, who still looked down on him arrogantly, the other birds now treated it as one of their own. Golden Flash walked into the palace and lay on the soft ground made of feathers. He pointed with his claws and signaled for the 2 pentacolor fragrant chickens to come in. He hugged them on both sides, revealing a human-like expression of enjoyment. Being by Watson's side was blissful. It never had such treatment back in Miles Manor. It now lived in a comfortable nest, and when it was hungry, it would call out twice and someone would respectfully bring it cooked food. When it was tired, it could hug female beasts. That was life, or rather, the pinnacle of beast life. It had just scared the 2 messengers and did not make a move. It was not that it did not eat people, but after living a pampered life, it no longer cared about raw meat. Raw meat was fishy, unpalatable, and never as delicious as cooked and fragrant roasted meat. Golden Flash was enjoying it when footsteps suddenly came from outside. It raised its head and saw that it was none other than its master, Watson. Its eyes immediately lit up, and it quickly ran out and climbed onto Watson's shoulder. If it wanted to live a more comfortable life, it had to work harder to please the young master. Golden Flash, I just heard your warning cry. Did something happen? Watson used his fingers to smooth Golden Flash's silky hair and asked. Watson had originally left the mansion with the intent of going back after taking a short walk outside. He had not expected to hear Golden Flash's voice. After spending so many days together, he had already been able to understand the meaning behind Golden Flash's cry. Golden Flash whimpered softly and used its small claws to draw a few times on Watson's shoulder. You said that there were 2 outsiders who were leaning on the wall to look and were scared away by you. Golden Flash hurriedly nodded and raised its small head arrogantly, as if it was saying, "See, I'm awesome. Well done. Tomorrow, I'll get someone to prepare 2 more pieces of roasted meat and give you an extra meal." Watson stroked Golden Flash's head and looked pensive. Could it be a thief that came here in the middle of the night? Forget it, even if it's a thief, they won't be able to steal anything with Golden Flash around. These days, the family had been building a castle, attracting many people from the nearby farms to come and visit. Everyone was envious. Some farmers even sent people to send out large amounts of wheat and magical beast meat to express their goodwill. Now, there were still 300 caddies of meat and 500 caddies of wheat piled in the kitchen. The meat would last an entire month even if he ate it every day. After seeing Golden Flash, Watson was even more determined to recruit people. Although the castle only covered a few kilometers now, in the future, the area would expand to dozens of square kilometers, or hundreds of square kilometers. Golden Flash alone was definitely not enough to protect it. The next morning, Zeke and Zenoa set out with the two business groups. Their mighty caravans disappeared into the dust like a long dragon. The two business groups took away the 16 pieces of Arcana Mithril that Watson had fused. It would be half a month or a month before they met again, and by then, the family would have tens of thousands of gold coins and a lot of materials. The family was short of ores to expand, and after recruiting people, they had to make weapons for the guards. As a result, they needed some weapons as well as needed farm tools for farming. They could just leave all that to Zeke and Zenoa, as they were well aware of what their family lacked. Watson stood beside his parents and waved at the people from the caravan to send them off. The family suddenly lost more than 20 people, and became quiet, which made him feel a little disappointed. Watson was not in high spirits and therefore went to the farmland. Since he had just cleared the weeds, the wheat seeds that were scattered in the farmland had not yet sprouted. Watson urged his light-type combat aura to promote photosynthesis. Then, he cast a bronze-level spell, the rainstorm, to moisten the farmland for a while. After that, he went to the breeding farm to tend to the magical beasts. The sun was setting, and it was almost evening. It was about time for Watson to practice his combat aura, so Vincent followed along. Ever since Watson became a bronze-tier warrior, there was very little that his eldest brother could teach him. Instead, his eldest brother wanted to learn light-type combat aura from him. After the integration of the system, knowledge would automatically appear in his mind. It was equivalent to having mastered a set of light-type combat aura cultivation methods. If his big brother could convert fire-type combat aura into light-type combat aura, his strength would still be several times stronger even if his realm did not increase. However, whether or not Vincent could actually master it would depend on Vincent's own talent. A month passed by just like that. A piece of news spread from the Black Moon Castle and swept through all the large farms nearby. Have you heard? Black Moon Castle is recruiting people. They say that you'll be able to eat meat for every meal as long as you become one of their guards. You'll be paid 1 gold coin a month, and those who perform well will have a chance to get the eggs of the pentacolor fragrant chicken. A guard said mysteriously in front of a small farm 1 kilometer away from Black Moon Castle. The farms at the border were distributed according to the land. Farms existed wherever there was good land. The distance was several kilometers, and the nearest one was only separated by a wall. For example, there were 2 farms a few hundred meters away from the farm where the guard was. The companion beside the guard curled his lips when he heard that. This news of yours is outdated. What's the point of eating meat? I heard that becoming a guard of Black Moon Castle gives you a chance to be personally guided by young Master Watson in your combat aura training. You know who young Master Watson is, right? He's a famous young silver-tier warrior. Unfortunately, Black Moon Castle only needs bronze-tier professionals. I'm afraid I won't have the chance. The one person in our farm who has the qualification is our captain. What are you guys mumbling about during your work time? At that moment, a bald man walked out from behind the 2 guards and reprimanded them with a cold face. Aren't you afraid that the farmer will deduct your wages? The 2 guards kept quiet and quickly straightened their backs. Speak of the devil, that man was their captain. Oh right, what you guys said just now, about the recruitment of people in Black Moon Castle, tell me in detail, the bald man asked again after glancing around and seeing that there was no one else there. TCH. The two guards secretly despised him, but they did not dare to show disrespect and therefore told him everything they knew. Similar things happened in many farms around. Have you heard? Black Moon Castle is recruiting. I heard about it long ago. I'm preparing to go there. Are you going? Of course I'm going. Aside from the eggs of the pentacolor fragrant chicken and the opportunity to learn combat aura, the salary of 1 gold coin a month and meat for every meal is enough for me to go. I must go. I don't even have the chance to eat meat once a week right now. The news spread like a storm. Some people were happy while others were sad. The ones who were happy were naturally the bronze tier professionals. The ones who were worried were the people who were not strong enough and the small farmers. They did not have many subordinates to begin with, and Black Moon Castle's actions probably meant that many were going to leave. That day happened to be the day that Black Moon Castle recruited guards. Early in the morning, more than 10 guards with extraordinary bearing stood at the gate of the castle. They were discussing excitedly while waiting for the castle gates to open. Chapter 37, The Selection Competition. Alan tidied up his newly bought clothes and had an irrepressible smile on his face. Beside him stood many guards who had come to Black Moon Castle to apply for a job, and he was one of them. Unlike the others, or rather, the advantage he had over the others, was due to having known Watson for a long time. When Lord Watson left Miles Manor the last time, he only took 6 farmers with him. I didn't have the chance to come along then, so no matter what it takes, I must become a member of this place, Alan muttered softly. He had been very happy in Miles Manor for the past month. Ever since Miles died, more than 10 guards and dozens of farmers had listened to his commands in the huge manor, allowing him to experience the joy of being a master. I caught a total of 200 magical beast cubs this month. I can take this opportunity to offer them to Lord Watson. As Alan muttered, he glanced at the castle in front of him with a face full of undisguised envy. I didn't expect Lord Watson to build such a magnificent building at the border in just a few days. Sigh, if it were possible, I would have insisted and changed places with those farmers. If he could live in such a gorgeous building, he would rather give up his status as the head of the guards in Miles Manor. Being the head of the guards was nothing. Was he able to eat the pentacolor fragrant chicken's eggs and have a silver-tier warrior guide him personally? There was a clamor outside. At the same time, in the castle of Black Moon, on a flat ground with a radius of several hundred meters, Watson was wearing a small black shirt. He held a wooden sword made of twigs and hacked at the air. Whoosh! Whoosh! Every time the sword fell, a golden light flashed across Watson's body. Wherever the wooden sword passed, deep scratches appeared on the ground. It was a training ground specially built by Watson. Most of the time he would train there with his big brother Vincent. It's probably already 10,000 times now, Watson muttered. He casually threw the wooden sword in his hand, wiped off his sweat, and opened his arms. With a bang, 2 golden wings opened on his back, incomparably dazzling. At the same time, the small shirt on his body rapidly changed, forming a black armor. The flowing steel on the wings was also covered with a layer of iron armor. Those were not phoenix wings, but light attribute combat aura wings. Immediately after, 2 flaming wings spread out from Watson's back, covered by the patches of the ancient knight's armor. A total of 4 wings, gently flapping, making Watson look like a god. I've finally reached silver tier after a month. Watson sighed. In the outside world, the news of a person becoming a silver tier warrior within a month would send chills down everyone's spine. The reason why Watson's strength had risen so quickly was not because his talent far exceeded that of an ordinary person. It was because he had given his eldest brother 1,000 gold coins this month to allow the latter to head out and buy a large number of combat aura training manuals. After learning those combat aura training manuals and fusing the combat aura he had cultivated, Watson finally became a silver tier warrior. Watson possessed 5 types of combat aura: earth, fire, water, wind, and light. However, it was unfortunate that fusing the 5 types of combat aura still ended up with light. If he could fuse them into the dark attribute, Watson would be able to gather every single combat aura. Watson, there are a lot of people outside. They said that they're coming to Black Moon Castle to apply for the position of a guard. Big Brother has already gone over. Do you want to go out and take a look? At this moment, his 7th sibling Scarlet ran in from not too far away and spoke excitedly while holding a sparkling silver longbow in her arms. The longbow in Scarlet's hands was simple and unadorned. It was inlaid with 7 types of gemstones: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. The bowstring was semi-transparent, and one could tell that it was not an ordinary item just by looking at it. While Watson had his big brother go out to search for battle spirit cultivation methods, he had also asked him to buy some ordinary bows and arrows. He had fused them with a silver-tier longbow called Hunting Moon God and gave it to 7th sister. When Scarlet had just obtained the silver-tier longbow, she could not help but hug him and kiss him on the cheek. During those few days, she had gone to Misty Forest alone and hunted quite a number of hens. As a result, the number of 5-colored fragrant chickens in her family's farm had increased by another 1 and became 6. Initially, Watson had asked his big brother to search for high-grade magic. Unfortunately, there were many warriors cultivating at the border and too few mages. His big brother went dozens of kilometers away and did not even notice any magic above bronze tier, so Watson could only begrudgingly stop at silver tier mage for the time being and shift his focus to warrior. At this moment, Watson smiled and nodded upon hearing Scarlet's words. Why yes, we have to go and take a look. If these people can pass the test, they will be our family's guards in the future. Since we'll become family, it wouldn't be right if we don't get familiar with each other. Let's go, Scarlet. We'll go together. Rumble. Black Moon Castle's gate opened with a loud bang. Vincent wore his thorn vest on the outside and a simple training tunic on the inside. He carried the storm sword on his back as he walked out. Not only was his body much sturdier compared to a month ago, even his mental state was different and his gaze was filled with sharpness. During that month, he had been accompanying Watson and asking him about the cultivation method of light-type combat aura. He was lucky to have a bit of talent in the cultivation of light-type combat aura, and he had since grasped the foundations. Although he was not as freakish as Watson to have advanced directly to silver tier, he had reached peak bronze tier and his strength had increased by more than 10 times. At the very least, he was practically unmatched among other bronze tier warriors. Today is the day that Black Moon Castle recruits guards. If you want to enter the castle, you need to pass the trial. The contents of this trial is very simple. I'll stand here without moving or fighting back. You'll pass if you can move me. Vincent stood at the door and said proudly as he looked around at the people in front of him. Some of the guards who came to apply for the job were already in their 40s or 50s. They were much older than him and exuded a condensed aura. In the past, he could not even win a one-on-one fight with this group of people, but as of that moment, Vincent only had one thought for these people: weaklings. This person looks so strong. Could he be the Black Moon Castle's 8th child, Watson? That can't be. I heard that Watson is a 10-year-old child. A guard sensed the terrifying aura from Vincent's body and muttered in puzzlement. They were already bronze tier warriors, and those stronger than them would no doubt be silver tier. It was very unlikely that there were 2 silver tier warriors in Black Moon Castle. Could it be that Watson is gifted to look more mature? I heard that some geniuses are gifted from birth. For example, they can speak as soon as they land on the ground, and they can run freely at the age of 1. Watson's ability to become a silver tier warrior at the age of 10 is one such example. There's nothing wrong with looking like an adult at the age of 10, someone beside him explained. Watson was not only a silver tier warrior at the age of 10, but he was also a silver tier mage. Such a genius was accepted by all even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. Being slightly taller did not make much of a difference. What did he just say? He's just going to stand there and let us fight, and if he moves a little, he'll lose? That's a rather big statement to make, even if he's a favored child of the gods. Some people were discussing whether the person in front of them was Watson or not, and even more people were angered by Vincent's words. Bronze tier warriors were considered strong at the border, and Vincent's words did not even spare them any dignity. Vincent did not care what these people thought. He raised his head and looked at the huge sun in the sky. It's getting late. Let's finish the selection earlier and arrange jobs for those who pass earlier. Who will go first? I'll go first. As soon as his voice fell, a muscular man with a full beard and a sledgehammer that was as tall as a man stood out. I'm William. I've been a bronze tier warrior for 20 years. I'm currently at the peak of bronze tier warriors. Please enlighten me. Chapter 38, Is he even human? William, is he the one known as the monstrous bear, the one who can smash a small hill with a single hammer? It is said that he was born with a divine strength of 3,000 F.A.T.S. Even a bronze tier warrior of the same level would not be able to block a single blow from him. And even if Watson was a silver tier warrior, he would definitely be injured if he stood still and allowed William to attack. There was a commotion amongst the dozen guards when William stepped forward. William's reputation was very well known within a few hundred miles of the border, and many did not favor Vincent's chances. If William could smash a small hill, then a body of flesh and blood would be smashed into meat paste in just a short, especially if it was standing still. William, right? Come on, Vincent chuckled and gestured with his finger towards William. Are you sure you don't want to release your combat aura armor? This hammer of mine might even seriously injure you. There's no need to go through so much trouble. How arrogant! I won't hold back. William widened his bell-like eyes and waved the hammer that weighed hundreds of pounds towards Vincent. The hammer broke through the air with a muffled sound and went straight for Vincent's chest. The huge force even created a whirlwind and blew away the stones on the ground. The hammer in his hand was an iron tier weapon. A weapon of the same level, such as a sword for example, would break if it came into contact with it. At that moment, William did not use his full strength and used only half. After all, the opponent was the master of Black Moon Castle, and it would not be good if the master was injured. Bang! The hammer and Vincent's thorny vest collided. Vincent's body swayed and did not move. On the contrary, William's hands trembled. He took 2 steps back and sat on the ground as confusion filled his eyes. He felt a force that was not inferior to his coming from Vincent's body, which cancelled out the attack. Failed. Next. Vincent swept the dust off his body without even looking at William. The thorny vest on his body was originally a bronze tier defensive equipment, but when he bought a longbow for his 7th sibling, he also bought dozens of sets of armor. He asked Watson to help him reforge the thorn vest, and had it upgraded to silver tier. The rebound effect had increased from 50% to 100%, and a mere bronze-grade warrior could not even break through his defense. William actually lost, and he lost that quickly. The surrounding guards looked at this unexpected scene with a face full of disbelief. Wait a minute. At this moment, William also came back to his senses. His face was red as he shouted, I didn't use my full strength just now. It doesn't count. He held back on Vincent earlier so that the latter would not be injured, but Vincent ended up being repelled without even moving. Whether he passed the selection or not had become secondary, as he did not want to lose his reputation after bragging. Rules are rules, but since you're not convinced, let's do it again. Vincent's expression was calm as he beckoned with his hand again. Wah-a-a-a-a. As he shouted, William raised his hammer and rushed toward Vincent. His body was covered with a thick layer of earth attribute combat aura. He was like a mad bear who could overturn a horse carriage, let alone a person. Vincent's gaze turned solemn after seeing that scene. A bright color burst out from his body and was covered with a layer of shining golden combat aura armor. It was a light attribute combat aura. Bang! After an even heavier sound, William was sent flying again. He flew for a few meters before landing heavily on the ground. A crack appeared on the hammer. Everyone rubbed their eyes and gasped. Some sharp-eyed people recognized the combat aura on Vincent's body and cried out in surprise. This is light attribute combat aura. As expected, he's Watson. Many of them had come because they had heard that Watson had mastered light attribute combat aura. Light and dark attribute combat aura cultivation methods were very precious, especially when it came to publicly teaching them. There might be more than one Silver-tier warrior in Black Moon Castle, but there could only be one person who cultivated light attribute combat aura. Everyone firmly believed that the person in front of them was definitely Watson. What else do you have to say? Why don't I give you another chance? Vincent asked. William, who was lying on the ground, got up with a resentful expression and waved his hand with a red face. No, there's no need. He had already used his full strength, but he was still unable to do anything to Vincent. He would not allow further tricks to be played on his pride. The first person was eliminated. Who else wants to try? Vincent looked around. The many guards in front of him all took a step back with a pained expression on their faces. William might not be the strongest among them, but he was the one with the greatest strength and the fiercest attacks. If William was unable to do anything to Vincent, they would certainly be faced with humiliation if they were to go up. No one is willing. Vincent was a little disappointed as he shook his head and sighed. Since no one is willing to give it a try, I announce that. Just as he was about to say, no one has passed the selection, he was interrupted by a voice from behind him. Big brother, wait a moment. Watson brought Scarlet out of the castle with a helpless expression on his face. Big brother, you're wearing Silver-tier defensive equipment and you've trained light attribute combat aura. It's normal for these people to be unable to move you. The conditions you set are too harsh. Watson had just arrived not long ago to witness the process of the duel between Vincent and William. The border was such a remote and desolate place that it would have been good enough if they could gather more than 10 bronze-grade warriors. Who else would come back to apply for the job in the future if so many people were eliminated at once? It was not that there were no geniuses in the border who could defeat Vincent in silver-grade defensive equipment, but rather, such geniuses would not just simply become a servant to guard houses. Watson, why did you come out? Seeing his younger brother, Vincent was first puzzled, then explained, I'm doing this for the sake of the family. If these people couldn't even defeat me, what's the use of recruiting them into the house other than feeding them our rice? How are they going to guard the house? How are they going to protect you? The person in front of everyone was not Watson, but Watson's older brother? Everyone's eyes widened upon hearing the conversation between the brothers. Watson was a genius who had recently become famous at the border. If he had become a Silver-tier warrior at such a young age, his big brother must have been even stronger. It was unsurprising that they could not beat him. So you're wearing Silver-tier armor? No wonder I can't beat you with my hammer. You're cheating. If you have what it takes, take off your armor. See if I can make you move. However, this time, I won't fight you. I want to fight Watson. William, who was just about to give up, shouted as his eyes lit up. If he could not win against the elder brother, he would definitely not lose against the younger brother. Indeed, he still had a chance. Vincent frowned and turned his head to say something, but Watson waved his hand to stop him. Big brother, forget it. Since he's so persistent, let's give him another chance. Turning his head, Watson said, Your name is William, right? I won't make it hard for you. As he spoke, Watson took off his small black shirt and threw it on the ground, revealing his smooth muscle lines and slightly tender upper body. This shirt I'm wearing is gold-tier armor. For the sake of fairness, I'll take it off for now. Gold-tier armor. Everyone present there widened their eyes. They were already extremely envious when Vincent earlier said that he was wearing silver-tier armor. They had not expected Watson to wear something even better. Gold-tier armor was often heard in legends, but it was the first time they had seen it. One such equipment was worth at least 1,000 gold coins, and they wondered where Watson had gotten that much money. They all had a sudden realization after raising their heads and looking at Black Moon Castle behind Watson. Anyone who could afford to build a castle would certainly not lack the funds to get gold-tier defensive equipment. At that thought, they became even more eager to join Black Moon Castle. With such wealth, they would still be able to get a set of bronze-tier equipment, and it was enough to make them happy for a long time even if they could not get silver or gold-tier defensive equipment. "I'm coming now." William also looked begrudgingly at the shirt on the ground and licked his dry lips. "Hold on a bit." Watson gestured for him to stop. The light on his body circulated and a layer of combat aura armor appeared. It went from gold to red, then yellow to green, and finally, it turned sky blue, your cultivated earth-type combat aura. "I'll use water-type combat aura to defend, which will increase your chances of winning." In this world, the 6 attributes had a restraining relationship. Light and dark attributes countered each other. Earth-type combat aura countered water-type combat aura, water-type combat aura countered fire-type combat aura, fire-type combat aura countered wind-type combat aura, and wind-type combat aura countered earth-type combat aura. Under the situation where the attributes countered each other, the superior party's battle strength could be doubled. "Did you see how many types of combat aura Watson used just now?" A guard nudged the person beside him, unable to close his mouth. The person beside him carefully answered, "There seemed to be 5 types." There were 6 types of combat aura in total. Watson had exclusive possession of 5. Training 2 types of combat aura at the same time would require more than double the time spent by an ordinary person, not to mention 5. What kind of talent was that? Was he still human? "You can begin." After doing all this, Watson beckoned William in satisfaction with his hand. William's face alternated between green and white, and he could no longer take another step forward. After pausing for a moment, he dejectedly put down his fist. "I admit defeat." What was there to begin? Watson had mastered 5 types of combat aura, and he had deliberately chosen one that was restrained by him. This was looking down on him. When he had seen Watson replace Vincent, he had thought that Watson might not be as good as his big brother, and that he might be lucky enough to win. It all seemed incredibly stupid of him. It was not unreasonable that the famous genius was Watson and not Vincent, because Watson was both young and a monstrosity. Chapter 39, Eager to present gifts. "Are you sure you don't want to give it a try?" Watson asked with a strange expression. He felt that the difficulty had been reduced significantly and he did not expect William to admit defeat. Did he not sufficiently lower the difficulty? Should he try using only half of the combat aura? As Watson began thinking of that, a group of guards had already started discussing. "This test is too difficult. It seems that we are not qualified to enter Black Moon Castle." Yes, even William admitted defeat on his own accord. "We are only bringing shame upon ourselves." As expected of the young genius who is famous at the border. He has mastered 5 types of combat aura. Who would dare to go up against him? It won't be easy for us to get close to him, let alone make him take a step back. Although they really wanted to enter Black Moon Castle, the reality was plain for them to see. Many people had given up, and Vincent's words rang true. If they could not even make Watson take a step back, what was the use of people like them becoming guards? To have their master protect them instead? That would be too awkward. No one dared to go forward. Only one of them tidied up his clothes and walked out. "Young Master Watson, I want to try this trial." Watson looked up and saw the person who walked out. He revealed a surprised smile. "Alan, why are you here? I didn't expect you to apply. We're all familiar with each other. Forget about the test." When Alan heard this, he was ecstatic in his heart, but he still pretended to be calm on the surface. Rules are rules. How can you break them so easily? Young Master Watson, don't worry. I haven't been sitting around idly for a month. I've caught 200 magic beasts. After I pass the test, I'll return to Miles Manor and bring these 200 magic beasts here. Alan didn't mention how hard he had trained. Instead, he said something about magic beasts, which made the surrounding guards confused. But soon, someone realized that this person was blatantly bribing them. Alan's meaning was very clear. As long as he was allowed to pass, he would offer up 200 magical beasts. 200 magical beasts, even if they were Iron Tier magical beasts, would at least be worth dozens of gold coins. I can't possibly. Watson scratched his face bashfully and withdrew the combat aura on his body. Come on. Alan came to Watson's side symbolically and gave him a gentle push. Watson immediately took 2 steps back and said, "Not bad. To be able to make me take a step back, you have passed." Which farm is this Alan from? How could he defeat Watson so easily? Could it be that he's a hidden silver tier warrior? Why haven't I heard of him before? Someone asked in puzzlement, getting a fierce kick from the person beside him. Idiot, shut up. Shady business. All that shady business was conducted in plain view. Did they think the others there were blind? Only a fool would not be able to see through it. Behind Watson, Vincent looked at this scene with black lines all over his head. He had heard of Watson's encounter at Miles Manor and knew that Alan had already defected to Watson. It was only natural that he would enter Black Moon Castle. However, it was still important to put on a good show in front of all those people. I didn't expect you to improve so much in the past month, Alan. You're now officially a member of Black Moon Castle. Watson chuckled. He felt that Alan was quite smart. He knew that he had to bribe his way through the exam. In fact, he was not satisfied with the guards in front of him. However, if these people were like Alan and were willing to give up the property that fancies his interest, it was not impossible for him to go easy on them. Watson looked at Alan and saw him winking at him. Although Alan's strength was not good, he was smart. With proper training, he could rest assured about the safety of his family. Watson did not worry any longer and said, "Alan, as the first person to pass the trial, you'll get a set of bronze tier armor and weapons later. After you bring the magical beasts here, you'll also get a bronze tier magic beast. Other than that, you can get 3 pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs every day, and you can get 10 gold coins a month. 1 pentacolor fragrant chicken egg every day? Bronze tier weapons, armor, and mounts? Was that for real?" Watson said a bunch of tempting rewards. After a pause, he waved his hand and said, "Forget it, let's not wait any longer. Let's do it now. Big brother, take 100 pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs and give them to Alan." "I understand." Vincent also understood that his 8th brother wanted to make such big promises to win over the hearts of the people. Without saying anything else, he returned to the castle. A moment later, he walked out with a basket of eggs. The number of eggs in the basket was neither too much nor too little, and there were exactly 100 of them. Seeing this scene, the guards knew that what Watson said was true. Their eyes instantly turned red. 100 colorful fragrant eggs, that was 100 gold coins. The value of the eggs was more than 200 iron tier magic beasts. Alan had already made a profit, and he even had 3 eggs to eat every day in the future. Such treatment was something none of them dared to imagine. Some of them moved their noses and sniffed the fragrance in the air. They licked their lips as they felt a lot more comfortable. "Young Master Watson, I suddenly remembered that my family has an ancestral bronze tier enchanted necklace that is worth 50 gold coins," a guard stood out and said righteously. "Although my family does not have any valuable jewelry, I have a 12-year-old sister who is about the same age as young Master Watson. She can be a little handmaiden to serve you tea and water." Another guard stepped forward. The rest of the people looked at each other and started to discuss among themselves. Young Master Watson, I don't have anything valuable in my family, nor do I have a cute sister. Do you think I'm? The guard who spoke seemed to feel that there was something strange in the gaze of the people around him. He added, "Why are you all looking at me like that? I'm not saying that I want to give my body to the young master. I'm saying that I have the strength. As long as the young master is willing to recruit me into the castle, I'm willing to capture 10 iron tier magical beasts every day." Watson smiled at the excited crowd. "Everyone, don't be anxious. Come one by one. Big brother, please write down the conditions that these people have promised." Half an hour later, Vincent was holding a long gift list in his hand. On it were written various benefits. Some people gave jewelry worth dozens of gold coins, some gave their younger sisters, and some gave land, food, and weapons. Among the dozen guards in front of him, Watson chose 10 who were under the age of 40. These people were still young and had a lot of room to improve their strength in the future. As for those who were in their 50s or 60s, Watson could only apologize even if they gave a lot of gifts. He accepted the gifts to make a fortune, but also to improve the strength of these guards. When those guards delivered the items, ordinary armor would be fused into bronze or silver tier defensive equipment. Wheat would be fused into high-quality ingredients that could improve the strength of the guards. Watson made up his mind. The better the items these people gave, the more benefits they would get. If he only needed to move his fingers to arm a team of guards and make them all feel grateful, there was no reason for him not to do so. The test this time has ended. I want to apologize to those who failed. The next recruitment will be in a month's time. Those who are interested can inform their friends. If they can pull someone over and successfully pass the selection, they will receive a pentacolor fragrant chicken egg. With a wave of his hand, Watson dismissed those who had been eliminated. He led his big brother and the 10 selected guards into Black Moon Castle. The excited voice of his 7th sibling Scarlet could faintly be heard beside him. "Watson, can you share some of the many gifts you received? You're really too cunning to have them present you gifts if they want to join the castle. If they come here a few more times, we'll make a huge profit without having to do anything." "Shh, 7th sister, don't talk nonsense. This is clearly called wisdom. How can you call it cunning?" Boom. The gate of Black Moon Castle closed with a loud bang, leaving a few people who looked at each other blankly. "What are you still standing there for? Quickly go back and ask if there are any bronze tier warriors we know who are willing to join Black Moon Castle." Some people came to their senses and gritted their teeth and left in a hurry. They had no hope of joining Black Moon Castle, but it was fine to introduce other people over. How could they possibly miss out on a chance for them to get pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs for free? They had never heard of such a thing before. Similarly, the wealth of Black Moon Castle once again breathed new life into everyone's worldview. The border had been peaceful for decades, but a big storm was about to occur. Chapter 40, Accepting Benefits. 3 days later. It's time. Everyone, take a rest. It's time to collect the eggs. At the edge of the training field in the castle, Watson waved his hand with a basket of eggs in his hand. When the 10 guards who were sweating on the training field heard this, they immediately put down their wooden swords and walked eagerly to Watson's side. It had been 3 days since they entered the castle. Ever since Watson had appointed Alan as the captain and the others as the ordinary guards on the first day, they had not been busy guarding the house these few days. Instead, they had been training together under Watson's orders. Those who passed the test were qualified to let Watson teach them light-type combat aura. Unfortunately, only 1 in 100,000 people could practice light-type combat aura. Those 10 people had been learning for a few days but were still unable to condense a single bit of light-type combat aura, leaving them on the verge of giving up. Other than that, they did not have anything to worry about here. Instead, they were very happy. Each of them had their own house in the mansion, and they could eat meat until they were full every meal. In the past, they had never received such treatment on other farms. It was already good enough to be able to eat meat once every few days, and the place they lived in was also crowded with a few people. Now that they were tired of training, they could go back and take a good bath. They could lie on the soft bed and cover themselves with feather blankets. They no longer had to worry about being woken up by the snoring sounds. This place was simply heaven. Everyone was rejoicing that they could pass the selection. William, 9 eggs. List, 9 eggs as well. Alan. Alan has already received his eggs this month. Come back next month. Watson quickly distributed the eggs. The family's chicken farm now had 6 pentacolor fragrant chickens and the daily net output was 600 eggs. They could not finish such an amount, and there was still plenty left after distributing them to the guards. After receiving the eggs, the guards held the multicolored eggs in their hands and panted heavily. Once again, they firmly believed that joining the farm was the right thing to do. I've taught you everything that can be taught. Now, it's up to each of you to understand. I hope that all of you can enter Silver Tier as early as possible. Tomorrow, you'll have a day off. You can go back and visit your families. At the same time, you can bring the things that you promised me. If you can't do what you promised, I don't want such people. Watson smiled at the 10 guards. Don't worry, young Master Watson. We will not miss a single thing that we promised. The guards hurriedly agreed. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, and difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. They had experienced a beautiful life there. No one would be willing to go back to living a hard life. They would not only bring the things that they promised Watson, but give more too. A few of them had even decided to give up all of their assets. Compared to the benefits Watson brought them, the things they gave Watson was completely insignificant. The next day. Captain Allen, tell us quickly what it's like inside Black Moon Castle. In Miles Manor, a few guards surrounded Allen. Someone brought him tea and poured water, and someone massaged his shoulders and legs, asking curiously. You don't need to call me Captain from now on. Allen leisurely drank his tea and waved his hand. I'm no longer a member of Miles Manor. From now on, I'll leave this manor to you. As for Black Moon Castle, I dare say that it's the most comfortable place at the border. I've just gone there and obtained 100 pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs. I believe that after eating them all, I'll be able to break through Bronze Tier and reach Silver Tier in less than a year. He was originally a peak Bronze Tier warrior. 10 pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs had increased his strength by 1,000 catties. In addition, Watson had taught him a large amount of combat aura cultivation techniques over the past few days, and after comprehending them, he had already gained some enlightenment. 100 pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs. The guards behind him who were helping to massage his legs had eyes filled with unconcealable envy. I heard that there are hundreds of rooms in the castle of Black Moon. Every guard who enters can be assigned a room. The bed in the room is so big that 2 people can lie down, and there's also a bathtub. The food is good too. There's wheat bread and meat for every meal. I wonder if it's true. Of course it's true. Alan nodded. These are the worst rooms you're talking about. There's more than just a bed in one of the better rooms. For example, there's a fireplace in the wall. It's very warm when it's lit. You don't have to worry about anything in winter. There's a red carpet on the ground, so it's not a problem to walk barefoot on it. The chandelier above your head is brighter than all the lights in our manor put together. The lighting at night is the same as during the day. There are even gems inlaid on it. It had to be the kingdom of heaven. Someone was moved by Alan's description and could not help but ask, Alan, we can be considered to be acquainted with young Master Watson. When you go back, can you tell him to let us become guards as well? Black Moon Castle only recruits professionals above Bronze Tier. If you want to go, all you need to do is train hard. All right, stop pressing the button. Go and feed the 200 Magica, beast cubs in the breeding farm. I'll set off tomorrow and send these magical beasts to young Master Watson. Alan waved his hand. The rest of the guards could only rue their lack of training in the past as they went to the breeding farm to take care of the magical beasts. On the other side, at the residence of a guard named List. List was 25 years old that year and had barely entered bronze rank. He initially did not have much hope of entering Black Moon Castle, but fortunately, young Master Watson was kind-hearted and eventually accepted him. The price was that he had to send his sister over to be a maid. Big Brother List, are you sure you want to take me to that castle? I don't want to go, I'm scared. An 11 or 12-year-old girl, who was a little thin and weak but had a beautiful face, grabbed List's hand weakly. Going to an unfamiliar place was already uncomfortable. In addition, there were many stories about evil people among the nobles. If they did not treat the handmaidens as human beings, they would be thrown onto the bed for shameful acts. If the handmaidens made a minor mistake, they would be beaten and scolded. If they made a huge mistake, they would be killed. List's parents were also present. At this moment, they looked worried. List, what is the logic in becoming a servant and getting more benefits? Is this so-called Black Moon Castle reliable? Don't push Wendy into the fire pit. Father, Mother, don't worry. This family is very kind. They are even more generous to us subordinates. I'll receive 90 pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs every month. If converted into money, it would be 100 gold coins. Wendy isn't just going to live in a big house if she went there. She can also eat meat and wear new clothes every day. It's much better than living here. List looked around the shabby home and explained. Live in a big house and wear new clothes? Brother, I'll go. Wendy's eyes lit up as she hurriedly agreed. Is it really that good? The two old men were also moved. List, why don't you take us there too? We can go there at the same time and take care of Wendy. I need to seek young Master Watson's opinion on this matter. List sighed. His parents were reluctant just now, but were immediately interested after hearing that they could live in a big house. If they knew that everyone had their own room, that they could bathe every day in the summer, and that they could heat up the stove in the winter, perhaps the old couple might be even more excited. At another farm not far away, the owner of the farm held on tightly to a man with a big waist. William, you can't leave. You're the strongest guard under me. What would I do without you? If you really can't do it, I'll give you a raise. Is 10 gold coins a month okay? Let go, I want to go back to Black Moon Castle. 10 gold coins a month, are you trying to get rid of a beggar? William was carrying a sledgehammer in his left hand and a large package in his right hand. There were more than 10 sets of armor and swords in it. His eyes were wide open. He was the one who had started the challenge, but he had failed both times. He thought that he would definitely be rejected. In the end, he decided to give away the weapons that he had exchanged over the years and was successfully accepted. Who would want to stay in a lousy place if they could enter Black Moon Castle? All right now, we'll meet again. Don't make this unpleasant. How about this, I'll give you 10 gold coins and you'll let me go. William took out 10 gold coins from his pocket, threw them in front of the landlord, turned around and strode away. Those 10 gold coins were his salary for this month. Watson had already paid him in advance on the first day he entered the castle. Money did not interest him. He was far more interested in what Watson had promised him. As long as he sent all that armor over, he would be able to exchange them for a set of bronze tier armor and weapons. Bronze tier armor and weapons were stuff that he wanted in his dreams. After seeing William leave, the farmer picked up the gold coins on the ground. He wanted to cry, but the tears would not come. Similar scenes happened in many farms. A day later, the 10 guards who had left the Black Moon Castle returned. Some brought more than 200 magical beasts, some carefully wiped the necklaces in their hands, and some held hands with a pretty little girl. Everyone was waiting for Watson to come out and take all their offerings. It was very lively with the roaring of magical beasts as well as the heated discussion.